that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network and the
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street. Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. I am your host, Michelle Malcolm, and as always, it's a pleasure to be in your company today. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, couldn't do this without you, and your continued support means the world to me. So thank you so much for tuning in to all of our regulars. I want you to do me a favor. If you're watching on Facebook, like and share the show. Like and share the show. We need the numbers to grow because that is how sponsors are attracted to the show. When they see a show that is, getting hundreds of views every day, thousands of views even, then they are more inclined to want to advertise with your show. And so we need these numbers to go up. I know people are listening because oftentimes after a show, a guest will come to me and say, "Oh my God, I had no idea so many people were listening to your show. I got so many calls." I mean, that happens all the time. So I know that people are out there listening, but in the world of advertising, in the world of broadcasting, you can't just go to a potential client and say, "Well, we know people are listening because they tell us they like the show." No. We need numbers to reflect that. And so I want to encourage you today, if you haven't already done so, go to my official Facebook page, like and share the show, follow the Facebook page so that you will get notifications whenever we are on the air, or whenever a show has been scheduled. You'll get a notification to say that we are in fact on the air, and then we would love to have you tune in for every show. And so on today's show, we are going to be looking at the budget communication that was laid in the House of Assembly, on table in the House of Assembly yesterday by Prime Minister Philip Davis. And the Honorable Philip Davis, would be his first budget communication as the newly elected Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. He's calling this budget communication the way forward. And during the show today, we are going to, I guess, in a way, dissect. Well, it was a 2-hour presentation, so obviously we're not going to get to the entire thing in a 2-hour show. It's just physically impossible to do so, but we are going to cover some of the major things that were covered in his presentation. So, to quote from what he said at the beginning of his presentation, he said, "As a new administration, for the first time, able to set out its priorities and choices in a national budget, we wish to present a landmark budget one that steers the country in a new direction, better able to both take advantage of the many opportunities with which we have been blessed, and also to withstand and overcome the many challenges currently facing the world in which we live. And this is what we're going to be talking about today, whether or not this budget accomplishes that lofty goal. And so joining me today on the show, let me add him to the stream, is a regular, C. Allen Johnson. C. Allen, welcome back to GPS.
Thank you for having me once again.
I invited several other people to be a part of this, and just, by luck, and one of them actually confirmed, and then she let me know this morning that she wouldn't be able to do it because she had a medical emergency. So I guess it's just meant to be me and you.
Oh, we always have good conversation.
Always. So I want to begin the show today, and I know that, it was a 2-hour presentation, so there's no way we're going to get through all of it in this one show, and we may have to just do a series on the budget, particularly as various ministers come forward to present their ministry's contribution as to what this budget is going to mean for them. So we probably will have to do a series, but we have more than enough material to do a show on just the presentation that the Prime Minister made yesterday. So I'm going to be playing clips today from Eyewitness News as well as our news, looking at various aspects of the budget communication. So this first clip that I'm going to play, I believe this one is from Eyewitness News, and it's a general report about the budget communication yesterday.
Diving right into the numbers for today, government expecting revenue to rake in some $2.8 billion. As far as value-added tax is concerned, the public purse expecting to rake in some $1.4 billion. Expenditure expecting to sit at some $3.3 billion, and of that multi-billion-dollar spend, government expecting to roll out some pretty exciting incentives for the public service.
We have submitted the proposal to PSU to increase minimum wage in the public sector with incremental increases starting in July. At this time, we also like to announce the full reinstatement and payment of all outstanding increments. We have included amounts for pay increases for most public officers. This is because we recognize that the public officers have not had a general salary increase since we were last in office.
Public sector nurses to get retention bonuses as well. Meantime, teachers to receive retention bonuses and salary increases. The education minister applauds that move.
Teachers are our primary stakeholders in the delivery of education. And I am so happy that this budget lifted up teachers. This is a budget that is so broad-based and so empathetic in its resonance, and it's inspiring.
And government social safety net widening to help those who desperately need it.
We have made a permanent increase in social assistance by 50% in comparison to the pre-pandemic levels. This increased assistance is to be disbursed through the reintroduction of a conditional cash transfer program, which was commonly referred to as the RISE program.
The urban renewal program set to receive some $500,000. Social Services Minister Obi Wilshcombe says it's time to get to work.
We're now going to be able to, across the board, provide increases, 10% and more of all that we provide our clients right now, which is very significant. So it's going to mean better days for our people, notwithstanding their difficult days.
Government's multi-billion-dollar expenditure to cover the build-out of a new complex on the prison compound, and the Defense Force gets $6 million for vessels. $10 million allocated for catastrophic healthcare assistance, and an additional $10 million for a Family Island Trust Fund for capital works on those islands. Meantime, an increase in the Universal Fund is expected to provide access to technology in the Family Islands as well. For the sports and culture portfolios, $1 million to be spent on hosting Carifta. The World Relay is expected to return, extensive funding to see the return of the Bahamas Games, and a 10% increase in grants within that ministry. Now, on to food security. Government to bolster the agriculture industry to support local farmers. And when it comes to energy reform, government is looking to drop a significant spend on solar energy, electric vehicles, and the introduction of LNG.
My government remains confident that the way forward which we are charting for the benefit of our country and the Bahamian people will secure our national development for the years to come.
$700 million is to be borrowed in this budget cycle. Of that, $150 million is for the build-out of a new hospital on Grand Bahama. Government is also seeking to cut down $1 billion debt left in place by the former administration. They've hired a private sector debt management company to assist them with doing that.
All right, so just so you know, C. Allen, we are going to cover, apart from that generalization, that general report that we just looked at, and we're going to talk about that. Also, to cover specifically a little later in the show, his claim that there'll be no new taxes. We're going to cover minimum wage, and we're going to cover the opposition's response to the budget communication. So, $700 million, we're talking about borrowing, $700 million. What are your thoughts?
Well, I accept that it's going to be $700 million, $250 million to cover previous year what is allocated for, I guess, carryover from this year, because again, this starts in July 1st. So, and it's the $500 million deficit spending that we anticipate. I haven't had the opportunity to actually read the budget to see what the projections are, because I understand there's an increase in the budget size. So in essence, what the government is saying to me is that they have an anticipated revenue windfall greater than last year or the year before, for them to come with a budget that is larger but have about the same average windfall, deficit that they had compared to the previous years, and then also on the top of it having to pay some previous debt. I'm going to be able to read that. I am interested to see the fact that the economy has not 100% recovered, how we could hit that $3 billion line. Now, I'm one of those where I don't believe the practice we've had in the past where we pay current bills with previous collections, outstanding collections should be applied. I've always argued that when we begin to pay, like say for instance, we have $500 million in debt that's not collected. We did not collect that. So now to move that because we collected in this year as part of revenue, I think that's a negative. I think that if we can collect these outstanding debts that we borrowed for in previous years, that 100% of those outstanding collections should go towards buying down the debt, as opposed to counting it as new income. And so I'm going to be studying the budget and beginning to look at the projection. I'm going to pay close attention. And the reason why I am particularly going to pay close attention is because we are in a precarious situation. We are in crisis, economic crisis, no matter what anyone says to you. Though we may have what is called more stringent tax collection, we are in almost to the point of stagnation, inflation and stagnant growth. And so we haven't really had any type of environment that signifies growth. I love the utterances the Prime Minister has made, but like you say, the devil is in the details.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, we're going to try to get through as many of those details as we can in this show, and find out whether or not you think it's a realistic budget or one that, as the opposition described, and we're going to talk about that a little later on in the show, he said this is a budget full of candy, which is sweet to the taste until you start getting them cavities. Then you realize
I think it'd be more inclined to, you say, those Easter chocolate rabbits we get for Easter? Sweet on the outside, hollow on the inside.
Oh, wow. Now you went even further than him.
But, that's why I'm saying the details, it's going to be in the details as each one begin to speak. He spoke about debt reduction, right? That technically is not debt reduction, it's debt collection, okay? We talk about the hospital. Okay, we talk about energy, food security, sports, the universal fund. I'm excited about that. If that is implemented correctly, I don't know whether that's going to government or should be going to IRCA. The trust fund about the 10% on the other islands. I think that's a little of smoke and mirrors. The prison, I understand the need for a new prison, absolutely. But I would also like to know the long-term strategy, because we should be seeking to reduce the need for prison as opposed to expanding it. The social service aspect, more money for individuals that's in the depressed mood. Good. What is the strategy to make sure that we don't keep growing that type of environment? The minimum wage, that's only 40,000 out of the 250,000 people in the country. Those 40,000 suffered no income loss in the last 3 years, even for those that went through Dorian. So yes, they are now getting a raise. What about those that stayed on the job or is seeking to re-enter the workforce, having been out of work for 2+ years? They have to pay current bills plus a lot of bills to catch up. And so there's a lot of economic adjustment that has to happen in these new economic models going on. This is no longer business as usual. And so my thing is listen to each of the ministers to see if we're going to have more linguistic contortionism and gymnastics as opposed to actionable economic plans that individuals can act on in this new global economy. And during the whole speech, I heard the green economy, blue economy, ocean economy, blue carbon credits, all these different things. The question is, where is the strategy for inclusion? That's what I want to get to. I know it's not in this, but I guess we all will be listening over the next almost for 2 weeks, I think they say, because they said it's going to last right into June. We're already going to be into June, almost into July, and then it goes to the upper house, which just rubber stamps anything, so it doesn't matter there.
I've heard some commentators say that it appears from what they have heard that at least it seems that the government is listening, because a lot of things that people have been calling for and advocating and pushing for, they're trying to address in this budget. They may not have, gone far enough in some instances, according to what some people are saying, but at least you see the presence of much of what people have been calling for in this budget. Would you agree with that trend of thought?
Yeah, I would agree that they have now begun to match the talking heads. But again, if you ask the talking heads what you want, the question is always how. You understand? And so it's like, yes, these are the ingredients you'd like to see. But now you're talking to the chefs, the people who is going to be in the back room, has to know the recipe to make these ingredients something that people want, that somebody can actually eat and digest and want to partake of. Those are what is called the actionable strategies. The Bahamas is littered with reports and budget speeches and sound bites. The question is, we are now past that. We are at the stage of past that rhetoric that we have experienced in the past. Since COVID, for 24 months, the world has moved 8 years ahead technologically into the future. The Bahamas at the beginning of COVID was already a decade plus behind. So that we could very easily be 2 decades behind in implementation of policies. You hear government still talking about digitization, this and this, that. You hear the minister, the junior minister, or minister of state for the public service says we can't get to the public service because it's all paperwork. Okay, yeah, you have 40,000 people for the public service and other agencies working for you. All their files are on paper. You're talking about not giving them increments, etc. You have to go through paper. But we have spent maybe $1 billion or more in digitization over the last 1 or 2 decades in technology in the Bahamas. But we can't get a system where we have at least all of our employees in a database. So the question then becomes, yes, these sounds good, but a true digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation, which is not technology. Digital transformation is people. It's developing a culture of digitalization and digitalization as part of your cultural behavior and what you accept and what you practice in government as well in businesses. We can see a lot of drawbacks in the businesses. Again, government only makes these as legislation, policies, and processes. These things, what the government is saying, is highly dependent on participation of businesses, NGOs, and individuals who will have to make these things happen. Those 39 individuals don't make it happen. The civil service is there for implementing of policies and procedures, but it requires all of us. That's why it says is this a budget of inclusion where individuals have information readily available to them that they can act on? I could tell you, just leading up to this budget in the last couple of weeks, I have not been able to get normal information from almost all of the departments that I'm trying to understand to help others be part of this inclusivity. And so I am a person, people know, I know how to collect information. I know how to find information. And if I don't have access to it, I can only anticipate even less people do. That's my greatest concern. We are about we're in a massive global shift. And all of these things the government speak about, carbon credits, that has nothing to do with us. That's a global economy that we're trying to tap into. The blue, orange, all these different economies. This is where the master digital economy comes in. And so, yes, we could talk about this, but how do we get small businesses to transition? The Prime Minister talked about bed and breakfasts. Typical person going to the bank will not get approved for the $300,000, $500,000 that's necessary to create that bed and breakfast. That's only one or two units I'm talking about. What is going to be done to help them prepare business plan and have economic mentors to them to be able to facilitate them entering this market without causing 1/3 of them, if you use the SBDC as an example, to fail? We don't have room for failures. You know, what is it for inclusion? We say let's go back before this budget. The Minister for Tourism said he wants to add another 3,500 people per day coming to the Bahamas. Where are the rooms to accommodate these 3,500 people a day if they even stay? Now remember, that's 3,500 new people per day to what we already have. What do we do if those people spend a week? So if I have 3,500 rooms and the second 3,500 come the next day, I need another 3,500 rooms, and I need another. So even if you look at just 7 days, we need about 24,000 additional bedrooms, room nights. What are we going to do to make sure Bahamians are participating in them, as opposed to getting 3,000 room hotels, and we become once again makers of bed and lawn cutters and pool attendants, etc.
Well, I saw where they, like, for instance, on the Family Islands, they're now allowing persons who have short-term rental facilities, like the Airbnb, for instance, to bring in duty-free.
Absolutely wonderful. That's what I'm saying, of inclusion. But see, unless there's a strategy, these are called illusionary benefits. Guess what? They could have very easily made Rolls Royces duty-free. How many of us would have been able to buy it? See, it doesn't matter. You could make everything duty-free. But if we're not in a position to buy the things, what difference does it make? This is the same argument we're making about that both the government and the oppositions and others are making about these bread basket items. I'm saying you're talking about a price increase. Let's say you're buying $4 eggs, right? You're talking about 10 cents increase. I'm saying to you, the man that is no money, no job, anything, he doesn't care if it's $4 or $4.10. He does not have the revenue, the money to get it. We should be talking about growing the economy and one of growing wealth, so that when inflation happens yearly, we don't see it, because our income and growth actually matches or exceeds the inflation rate. These are the conversations we should have.
So in essence, what you're suggesting is that it'll be the same set of people benefiting who are already benefiting from
access. Yes, who has access. Just consider this, right? I just told you we need 24,000 rooms. Let's divide it by 2. We have a civil service of let's say the 25,000 directly into the civil service. That is, we don't need, because we can run the civil service based on a survey with 7,500 people. In fact, when you look at the civil service and the government corporations, 40,000 individuals. With using technology, we need 7,500. Let's put at 8,000 of people to do all of that. Where do we now put these 32,000 people? Good. So if we have an actual strategy of growth, and we don't lack the money, because I already told people if we take 50,000 acres and put a $300,000 value, and it'd be a $15 billion. So the money is not lacking. Leadership is. But I'm simply saying that here it is that we say we're going to grow an economy and we need 20,000 rooms, 24,000 rooms. Would it make sense for if each one of those civil servants can get 2 rooms, which would generate about a $520,000 per year, let's say net, $100,000 a year, and each one of them have a 2-room bed and breakfast? How many civil servants that is making 210, who's looking forward to 250, would break their neck leaving the civil service? We would have to beg people to stay in the civil service. So we say, leave your $30,000 job. Somebody's been there for 30 years that's making $30,000. I say to them, leave your job, and you could make $100,000 just staying at home, taking care of 2 rooms. We would empty the civil service. So I'm simply saying is that these economic models we're talking about growth has to have strategies of inclusion and priority given to Bahamians to own this new economy that's evolved. This new economy of bed and breakfast and heritage and cultural tourism, ecotourism, all these things that we've talked about for decades is now come to reality. I spoke to a group of people recently and I said to them, today is the tomorrow I warned you about yesterday. We are out of time of waiting.
All right, I want to before we go to a break, I want to take a look at our news version of their general report on the budget communication. They paid more attention to the government's borrowing of $700 million to get this done. Here is a look now at their report.
We promise to be transparent, open, and accountable in our decision-making and actions.
The Prime Minister read 2 borrowing resolutions in the House of Assembly. The borrowing resolutions total $690.7 million. Davis says the borrowing is necessary to cover the projected deficit for the upcoming fiscal year and to meet with the cash shortfalls during the execution of the annual budget. As it relates to the upcoming fiscal year, the PM says the current budget projects a significant rebound in the Bahamian economy. As it relates to revenue,
total revenue is projected at $2,804.4 million, at a 19.9% increase over the prior fiscal year, when the economy was in the early stages of an economic rebound from the COVID-19 pandemic.
When it comes to expenditure, Davis says
it's a forecast at $368.4 million, with recurrent expenditure projected at $2,997.2 million, and capital expenditure estimated at $371.1 million.
As a result, Davis says the fiscal deficit under the current budget is estimated at $564.3 million, or 4.3% of GDP.
Okay, so see, Alan, I was never a math whiz in all my years in school, so so I'm going to rely on you to break that down for us. What do you think of those numbers?
Again, first of all, let me just let people know, we have had padding of numbers for the longest. Let's use an example. The money they have for works. The problem is that we go back over the years and look to see, did they do 100% or exceeded what they had allocated for works? The answer will be no. Yet they met those deficit marks. If I have $400 million in the budget for works, schools and roads and infrastructure, and I only spent $200 million of it, then the projected deficit that I had of $500 million should have only been $3 million. Yet they will come and brag that, look, we met our deficit goals, but they don't tell you they met it by not doing the necessary repairs. That's why we have so much dilapidated roads, undeveloped infrastructure, no new schools, and none of these things, because we play gymnastics with our numbers. And so it's only when, for me, I always felt that we need an independent ombudsman type group who would go through and educate the Bahamian people about what the realities of these budgets mean, because they are literally an exercise in lyrical contortionism. And so what we have to do is begin to look that they have these in there. Let's use another example is that if we were to actually have an actual audit of the state and conditions of our plantation that we call schools, our office government buildings, and the needs of the roads and airports and bridges and such, we could very easily come out into needing $5 billion or more alone just to catch up So when we say we have $400 million for infrastructure improvements, those are called patches. And so we have not yet had a complete analysis of our budget to simply say, this is where we are as a nation. These are the things that we need to grow, and have an actual actionable strategy that we can go to lenders if we have to, if we don't tap into the resources that we're talking about. If we can actually go and finance what it takes to bring a real Bahamian economy with all the bells and whistles necessary for inclusion of Bahamians to be involved in the growth and development. Understand this. There is absolutely nothing wrong with borrowing as long as what you're paying back is less than the value given to you by borrowing the money. What do I mean by that? If I could borrow $1 million at 6%, but my return is 10%, then guess what? It didn't cost me anything to borrow. It is when we have deficit spending and no growth to accompany that deficit spending is where our problem has been and where it is right now. This is why it's going to be important as this first budget of the Progressive Liberal Party, the Philip Brave Davis, Chester Cooper administration, to actually have individuals around them that as they administer this budget, that can go out and look for methods of and program and processes to make sure all Bahamians are on board as we build this new economy. Because we need Bahamian growth to be able to pay back these borrowing, and it would be nice if we have a strategy that we can actually see where that deficit, where 100% of what is promised is spent, and that deficit half a billion dollars they have shows that it's 200 million, because we actually were able to capture $300 million from the new growth that happens in this economy. And that is possible. And so we could move away from this so-called talk Olympics that we have, what we call the budget debate, and actually have verifiable, actionable methods of growing our economy for the inclusion of Bahamians.
Well, one of the big questions that the leader of the opposition has is how are we going to pay for all of this? And we're going to talk about that a little later on, but we have to take a quick commercial break. So stay with us. This is GPS. We're talking today about the budget communication, and we will have more on that after these words from our sponsors. Stay with us.
Get a jump start on your future by applying to the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute. Did you know that BTVI offers associate degrees in human resources management, software engineering, office administration, media technology, and more? We also offer many certificate courses in carpentry, barbering, electrical installation, and so much more. You can even earn international certification at the same time. Come, discover the possibilities. Discover BTVI.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rim fix and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Glasses love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here along with C. Alan Johnson. And today we are talking about the first budget communication by the Davis administration, and what it really means as it relates to how it's going to impact we, the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Our telephone numbers to call if you'd like to join in on the conversation are 3260271, 3260271. That's 3260271 or 3260272. 3260272. One more time, 3260272, and the WhatsApp number to call 824-9952. 824-9952. Okay, so we're talking the budget communication. I want to read a comment from one of our Facebook viewers. Bertha says, we need to get back some of the wasted or stolen funds from the former government to help pay for it, especially that $4 million the auditors spoke about. Suck my teeth, these governments.
Well, let me just say that if you do an audit of the entire Bahamas, or going back over the last few decades, you would find out, remember now, the $10 to $12 billion, in the truest sense, we owe about $15 billion, right? Because we have some debt that is not on the books. But let me explain that, then I'm going to go back to saying, the debt that we don't have on the books is the pension fund, which is about $4 billion that we owe. We basically pay that from the consolidated fund on a monthly basis. All of these contracts we sign, all of these things we sign for these government corporations, Bahamas Air, Water and Suez, the Batelco debt that we assume, the debt we have for the power company, all of those belongs to us, because if those companies are never in a position to pay them back, we have to pay them back. So when you look at it, we have about $15 billion. Now, let's look at the economy model. And you have to ask yourself, this is what we owed. This is not what we spent.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at what we have spent over the last 50 years, you would question the sanity of us as Bahamians for just quietly supporting it and ask, where's the value for money that we've gotten? And we've never had a full audit of what we've spent for the last 50 years as we approach our 50th anniversary. It'll be a wonderful contribution to our national development if we could look at what we spend, tell the Bahamian people what it should have been spent for, what is the value we've gotten, and to whom that we owe it, and under what terms. Let me add one thing, Michelle, as we continue, because a lot of people have private messaged me. My opinion of Mr. Brave Davis' contribution. In my 2 decades of being home, it's one of the most beautiful, comprehensive, forward-looking contribution I've heard in my 20 years. So this is what, my 5th or 6th one. It was beautifully articulated, had a lot of wonderful points on it. And again, as we'll talk to later, it's what's now, what's new, and really what's next.
I'm waiting to hear the but. I mean, that was
No,
some.
it really is. The question again is what? See, like you say, right? You have described to me a wonderful event in the future. Now I want to hear how.
All right. Well, I know one thing that got a lot of positive feedback. No new taxes. Let's go to a clip. This one coming in, I think, from Eyewitness News that talks more about what the Prime Minister had to say about no new taxes.
I'm pleased to advise that this ambitious agenda is being funded without any general increases in taxes or rates. There are, however, some new and very targeted fees.
Prime Minister Philip Davis reaffirming government's commitment not to implement any new taxes on the backs of Bahamians still grappling with the downturn of the economy, COVID-19, inflation, and the rise in fuel costs.
We've also sought to introduce revenue measures to do the following: lower the cost of living, lower the cost for acquiring property and homes, and to encourage investment in key sectors. To achieve these goals, in this budget, we have reduced the duty on a significant number of food items to bring relief to our citizens and residents.
First-time homeowners will have something to look forward to this upcoming fiscal year as the government increased exemptions.
We will refund up to $40,000 in cash for any VAT paid for construction services. Or materials purchased. Once the occupancy certificate is provided within 18 months of the commencement of the construction. We are also increasing the level of exemption for first home buyers from $250,000 to $300,000 and reducing VAT on property transfers below $1 million per individual.
Meantime, Prime Minister Davis stressed that this administration moving forward will be serious about the collection of real property tax.
In addition to that, we are now imposing a minimum tax fee of 75% of the real property tax assessment for high-end properties, which are exempt from property tax because they are in a rental pool.
Now, a number of these tax incentives are expected to come into play at the beginning of the fiscal year.
All right.
I
don't know what the laugh is about, but I can let you go ahead and explain.
Because as one that understands linguistics, he says there will be no new
taxes, but some fees.
Let's see what he said first. From a general standpoint, okay, that means, because remember now at the back end he says there will be some new taxes. Now I'm going to come back on those rental pool thing, because again I think what we did was, I know he didn't want to reach deep down into those people that's impacted, but again, it's a language. No new taxes, no new taxes. So then he says this: no matter what government calls it, a tax arose by any other name is still what? Arose. So you have different increase in services. Now, I could tell you what he imposed there is small compared to what he gave back if they don't become illusionary benefits. One language, again, language is important. It says, we will give you 10%, we'll give you your VAT back on houses up to $400,000, because that's what the $40,000 amounts to, 10% of what you're buying. If you start and complete your house within 18 months, he says 18 months from commencement. So if you individuals that like to build your house or your pocket, and when you get your ASU draws, if you're not finished in 18 months, you don't gain that 10% type environment. So the question is, are we going to facilitate an environment for individuals to get financing up to $400,000 for that first-time home buyer by lifting the threshold in the mortgage corporation and other places, by putting in some funding? That's, again, he gave a wonderful benefits of bed and breakfast and other part of the communication. So when you take what he says as a whole, that's why I can say it's a wonderful communication, even though you have to be able to follow through and put the segments of each segments, how they are interrelated with each other. And so you can build your home, you can build your bed and breakfast, you can do a whole lot of things. Because again, it doesn't really count to them, because if you're really building in the hotel industry, you could look for the Hotel Encouragement Act. There's a lot of different things that's available for Bahamians that we often complain about. And we complain about it because we really don't know about it, because no one has really taken the opportunity to tell us the very things that we are asking for already exist by another name. And so, for instance, you talk about building a home. There's a combination that you and I have spoken about, and shown others, where there's an opportunity now for individuals who would normally say they're going to buy a government home for under $200,000, can now incorporate a bed and breakfast within that home that, say, move up to the $300,000 under the $400,000 environment. That's a $40,000 savings. But is there an environment now for me as a person that help people prepare a business plan to, instead of sending you for a mortgage, send you for a business plan, so that I can show that just renting that bed and breakfast for at 70% occupancy can put $24,000 net income on your books, which can go towards paying back that $400,000, thus having you qualify using the income from that property as well as your regular income, which will, that regular income becomes less significant if the growth that was promised occurs and you can have 70% occupancy. If you have full occupancy, you will have almost $40,000 coming in, but at 70%, you'll have the $25,000. So if you have a mortgage at a $400,000 with mortgage, principal, interest, taxes, amortization, whatever else we call it on it, under $3,000, and I have a $2,400 income, I only need to make $600 a month from my regular job to be able to qualify for that property there. That's what I'm saying to you, is that there's opportunities not from the talk, but from the action. You understand? We have to take the talk away and say, let's apply thought to what is being said. Because oftentimes, the 5-year celebrities, as I rightfully define them, will come with a nice talk that is given to them by the civil servants. But now, would we name needs of team of empowerment officers who will work, who the government will work with, whether they work directly for government or with government, to actually be able to utilize what has been promised as tools of inclusion. And that's the new economy we're in.
I have a comment from a Facebook viewer. Bertha says, the budget was loaded, but I pray that no disaster comes, so I see all of these things come to reality.
Well, let me make an argument on that. If a hurricane was to strike us now, the promises in this budget becomes more valuable, because what happens then is that the hurricane has already struck us in 2019 and the other ones, and we have had no pathway for really rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at this budget beyond the talk, and I know it's not going to be it's not going to be beyond the talk for most people, because they have not researched or educated or prepared as I am, 1, 2, or 3 of them. So the typical person will not see the ability to exploit the opportunities. What I mean by hurricane, if another hurricane, say, was to strike Grand Bahama, and pray that no lives is lost. But many of the homes that are damaged, that have to move out of the way, can easily be rebuilt. Because many of them, if I had the money, I would put a bulldozer to them anyway and build a new house and bed and breakfast. So let's look at the positive. We don't want one because we have to then look on housing these individuals until we transition. But I would tell you that we could look within this budget and put together a what-if strategy. How if a hurricane or something was to strike us, how do we respond in the immediate to pull into our rebuilding? Now we say build back better, stronger together. How do we implement and accelerate some of these policy positions so individuals can tap into them? Right now, there's unique opportunities if information can be gotten to the people and individuals like myself for us to be able to utilize this information. We can begin to use these right now as tools for building back better. And this is why you could say I would join the opposition in their position. Now that you've told us what, please tell us how.
All right. Sounds very fascinating, as always. All right, so let's move on in terms of the coverage that was provided. Another big ticket item that got a lot of attention was the announcement that the minimum wage will be increased. Now, we did say that, it's only for government workers. It's only, like you say, 40,000 out of the 250,000 workers, we said?
Yeah. It's 40,000 that comes under the purview of government workers, but this directly affects the civil servants. Permanent employees, which is 20,000 or less. That's the problem. So this doesn't affect, it doesn't affect a temporary and casual workers. They just don't get the benefits.
Before we break it down, let's take a look at what the Prime Minister had to say with regard to the minimum wage.
We all believe that the rate of minimum wage needs to increase because of the general erosion of spending power of ordinary Bahamians. An imperative which has been made more urgent by the current level of inflation. To this end, we have submitted the proposal to PSU to increase minimum wage in the public sector with incremental increases starting in July.
Additionally, Davis says his government has engaged with union leaders for a contributory pension plan, as a significant number of public servants are without a plan. The Davis administration is also providing funding to increase salaries for teachers and to pay a retention bonus to teachers and nurses. The Prime Minister also announcing a 10% increase in funding for NGOs across the board, including the feeding programs headed by Singing Bishop Lawrence Roll and Great Commission Senior Pastor Bishop Walter Henschel. These organizations, along with others, will also see a tax break in this budget cycle.
Under this new budget, all property owned by religious organizations, trade unions, civic organizations, and burial societies will now be exempt from the payment of real property tax. This reduction in taxes will put money back in the pockets of the entities to allow them to further their reach in their community.
Davis also acknowledging the pressing need to improve national health care, which was emphasized throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result, the Davis administration allocated $10 million for catastrophic health care.
This means that, Madam Speaker, for the first time, the government can provide meaningful assistance to long-term dialysis patients, heart patients.
There's also a $150 million loan facilitated to construct Grand Bahama's new hospital. He said additional funding has been allocated for the country's 50th independence next year and an additional $6 million to purchase new vessels for the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. Then there's the creation of a Family Island Development Trust Fund. Insert.
We have allocated 10% of the overall revenue collected in the Family Islands from property tax, road traffic fees, for the creation of a Family Island Development Trust Fund. It's going to be seeded by $200 million. This fund will facilitate the government in making immediate and significant investment in the Family Island.
Okay, so there's a lot to break down in that story. I don't even know where to begin. First and foremost, if you think you have plenty churches in the Bahamas now,
No, that's what I'm saying to you. Actually, as this is now Reverend Dr. C. Allen Johnson, upon which my 50-unit bed and breakfast will now be deposited into. Okay, and my other 50 units will be in my feeding program. And
speaking of which, I kind of glad he gave a little shout out to the singing bishop and the singing at Great Commission, because they didn't get left out in the last Quran. So
right, and so what happens again? I hope that there's some safeguards for abuse, because again, I just told you, if my church consists of me and my children and my significant other, 5 members, then I am a legitimate church, as long as I hold services in my living room every week, which I will now claim that the revenue from these 50 units belongs to the church, and the Mercedes, the Rolls Royce, the Jaguar, and the plane at the airport is just comforts for the pastor to enjoy. That's not personally owned by him. So it opens a somewhat gateway for abuse. So again, we need tightening of our laws on these facilities anyway. 4,000 churches. Every day we got somebody popping up as an NGO, which technically NGOs in the Bahamas are basically jobs for most people who can't find jobs. So you just simply say, I'm going to start helping people so I can pay myself from the monies I collect. And so again, so we have some variations of abuse there. So again, these are things that we have to close in now that we are saying that we have the potential of inserting hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue into these organizations by virtue of the savings that goes to them. So again, you need, like you say, the strength is going to be in the details. The Family Island Trust.
Mm-hmm.
The government says, as you know, we normally pay all of the bills out of our right pocket. Commencing immediately, we're going to take $200 million out of our right pocket and put it into our left pocket. And as you begin to collect monies, we will take 10% and continue to put in our left pocket and put 90% in our right pocket. So that when you who do not ever collect a significant amount of money to do anything, and you run short, we can immediately spend the money out of our left pocket without having to go through the normal processes and whatever else. And we will then reach into our right pocket to continue still give you the deficiencies that you have. Nothing changes except a new step. Because this facade, and I hear people make these talking heads do so much about local government that have no understanding of the true aspect of autonomy of municipal governance. And so we keep coming up with these variations, sound good variations. And because the individuals who have been advocating for this never understood it anyway, once the government says something, you hear the seal type thing, get the banging on the desk. It's pure garbage. And I challenge anyone to say it is linguistic contortionism again, because unless those environments, like somewhere like Grand Bahama, if given a real taxation ability, let me explain to you what I mean by that. We collect the taxes, and you leave 10% to us exclusivity, and we have the ability to impose our own tax. Okay? For instance, we have taxation district in the U.S. where if I have a community, I can decide that this community wants to tax itself. For instance, let's say I live in Bohemia in Grand Bahama, which is about 2,000 acres and a few thousand homes. We could decide that we want to tax ourselves at an additional 1% per year, and we'll build our own police station, we'll build our own fire station, and we'll build our own clinic. Here's what happens. The use of these facilities, with the exception of the police station, is reserved almost exclusively for individuals within a community. What do I mean by that? You now want to go to the state-of-the-art school that C. Allen Johnson has built. You must own a home or show proof of rental within that community for your child to be able to register in that school. Because we built it with our own self-tax environment. Now, here's what happens. By me building this state-of-the-art from first grade to grade 15 school, you will now have individuals who will want to flock to that community. I have 3 children, all going to private school. This is an example. I'm paying $10,000 a year. I go, wait a minute. If I move to Bohemia, the $10,000 a year that I pay for this private school can actually go to my home ownership, because my kids will now be able to go to the school with better improvement. I will have a better police department that is self-funded by this community. I will have ambulances and things that is closer to respond and immediate to me. That's the form of municipal governance there is. Not this ragtime thing. I tell people all the time, local government in the Bahamas reminds me of the rules I had for my daughters. They could wear whatever they want long as I bought it. They could stay as late as they want, just be home by 7. Drink whatever you want long as it's water. Illusionary choices.
Yeah, I have heard quite a bit of talk about, it's just another way for centralized government to continue to control what is happening on the Family Islands. What role does local government play?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the Family Islands, and from an economic thing, if we had local government on Grand Bahama that I could actually run for, we will actually be our own republic within 5 years. Because the growth potential, see, there's never a problem with taxation, When I was in the US, I never complained for taxes, which at some time, based on revenue between me and my spouse at the time, could be as much as 40%. Why didn't we complain? Because if we made $20,000 as an example, and we paid $120,000 of that in taxes, we got $120,000 of worth from it. It is when you tax me and I don't see the value of the collective taxes now. These are things that you say, if you take this $100,000 from my $300,000, what do I get for it? Okay, good. Now that you are collectively taking this away from 5,000 people in my community, shouldn't our collective buy-in power get us even more? That's what taxation is supposed to be able to show. But we think taxes is just take from me, pay the bills. And that's the problem we have, is that we don't really even have real conversation on how economic models work or how tax is supposed to work for people to begin to appreciate the benefits of taxing. We talk about taxing the rich and whatever else. And I hear all of these stories about make it by your own. I've made it by my own bootstrap, and I pull myself up. And I say to those individuals that say that, did you pay for the roads by yourself? Did you pay for the police force by yourself? Did you pay for the defense force to stop people from coming into the country and taking what you have by yourself? Did you pay for the airport by yourself? And on and on and on. So this whole concept of I've made it on my own is another misnomer in statements. We're all part of it. The question is, are we getting value for money? So when you run about taxing the rich, I can assure you, their problem is not paying taxes. Their problem is what the value that they get for the taxes they pay. That's the conversation we have. And many of them, if they can understand the value, because remember, a rising tide lifts all boat, even their mega yacht in the harbor. And so if the taxes are properly executed and distributed, and the economy grows and the environment grows, as it lifts the yachts from the bottom up and the middle out, it will also lift the yacht in the harbor of the rich at the top.
All right,
I can't remember what else they got in there.
Well, we got to take a break. But that particular report had a lot that we could cover, because one of the things that I was excited to learn, to hear about was obviously the rebuilding of a hospital in Grand Bahama.
Okay, yes,
Obviously, we got to talk about that, and the other things that he announced as it relates to healthcare, and assisting Bahamians, who are facing long-term chronic disease and need additional help. I thought that was pretty good. So we're going to talk about that and more on the other side of the break, but we have to take one more break. Well, 2 more actually. So we're going to take this quick break, pay a couple of bills, and then we'll be back with C. Alan Johnson talking about the 2022 budget communication as tabled by the Honorable Philip Brave Davis, Prime Minister of the Bahamas, the first one for his administration. We'll be back after these words. Stay with us.
Get a jump start on your future by applying to the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute. Did you know that BTVI offers associate degrees in human resources management, software engineering, office administration, media technology, and more? We also offer many certificate courses in carpentry, barbering, electrical installation, and so much more. You can even earn international certification at the same time. Come, discover the possibilities. Discover BTVI.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Youngevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Youngevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, paints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Less is love.
It's gotten harder and harder to get your daily requirement of vital nutrients from food alone. Without additional vitamin and nutrient support, your health and well-being can suffer drastically. That's why Z-Radical was specifically formulated. It combines a blend of antioxidant-rich vitamins, minerals, and botanicals with the protective powers of fucoidan to help fill the gaps from lack of nutrients in your foods. The core of Z-Radical is fucoidan, a naturally occurring polysaccharide that helps stimulate immune reaction, protecting you against inflammation and oxidative stress. We harvest this powerful mineral-rich nutrient from brown seaweed, harvested only from the world's most pristine ocean waters to ensure the purest quality. It's then extracted using cold process technology to ensure maximum levels of bioavailability. Then we add essential vitamins that help to protect your cardiovascular and nervous systems and are crucial for optimal immune and neurological function. Z-Radical also includes a proprietary blend of delicious antioxidant-rich fruits and berries. This great-tasting combination helps your body combat free radical imbalances that can contribute to a variety of degenerative conditions like arthritis and heart disease. Z-Radical. Experience the power of fucoidan with antioxidant-rich berries, 8 essential vitamins, and more to provide you with potent health benefits. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with C. Alan Johnson. We are talking about the budget communication as tabled by Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip Davis, yesterday, the very first one for his administration. And we are talking, it was a 2-hour presentation, as we said. So we can't cover the whole thing in this show, but we're just looking at some of the highlights. And over the course of the next several weeks, I'm sure we'll have opportunity to dive more into the details as they are presented by the various ministers who will, as tradition calls for, be coming forward to explain in more detail how the budget will impact their particular ministries, and programs. But getting back to the last report that we saw prior to the break, we heard of a new hospital for Grand Bahama, which, the Rand Memorial Hospital was badly damaged by Dorian. So that was good news.
The Rand Memorial Clinic.
Go ahead. Say what are your thoughts on that?
See, the Rand Memorial Hospital was a clinic that was built in the 60s or something. Changing the name doesn't make it a hospital. That's why when I look at the $150 million that is allocated for the hospital, and I said, it's great. We have enough money to break ground now. But definitely not enough to build a hospital as needed for Grand Bahama. But it's a start. And this is why, again, what is our long-term plan? If you have Freeport as a population that basically need to grow exponentially, basically by 250,000 people in the next 6 years or so, to really have the sustained type of growth the Bahamas have. That's another immigration problem I said that we have to have a conversation on. But you're talking about attracting high network companies here, high network people. We don't need another elaborate clinic being built. I also understand the area that they say the hospital is going to be built is in the vicinity that the hospital was originally going to be built, which we have given away a significant part of it, which no one has answered yet, to a private school. So how do we build a hospital next to it or whatever else? I would love to see what it is. But we do need to have a conversation concerning a short, medium, and long-term view of what Freeport and Grand Bahama will be, and the type of facilities that we would need to be able to respond of the needs of those individuals. There's some major developments that's going to be happening on this island if they were to happen. You have Reunion Key, a multi-billion-dollar thing. We have the Weller Group with another $500 million, and the hotel itself is at least $1 billion. That's based on what they said. There's another multi-million-dollar function hotel that's going to be going, another multi-million-dollar development. You could only assume that when he's now the Minister of Investments also talked about growing the tourism product. Going back almost a decade, we needed between 10 and 20,000 rooms on Grand Bahama. These are individuals and this is why they are called accidents, that accidents will occur, that we have to be able to respond to it. The building itself is not the response. When you say a hospital, you're talking about the accompaniment, ambulance, whether it be car, vehicle, maybe even some boat ambulance, and because we are going to be a water type environment. We're also going to need facilities to facilitate, if you bring these so-called global corporations here, the type of injuries that could be sustained for them. $150 million hospital is not going to be it. That's going to be more of a well-equipped clinic. A hospital requires a whole different method of building a hospital. And so this is why myself and others says and will begin to agitate that we need to have real conversation on the direction that Grand Bahama will go and the role that it will play in the economic development and recovery of the Bahamas. Because it's already been said for 2 decades, going back to Hubert in 2002 with the Right Honorable Perry Glasgow Christie, followed by the Right Honorable Hubert Ingram, followed again by Perry Christie, followed again by the Most Honorable Hubert Minnis, now again by the soon to be Right Honorable, because he's going to be part of the Privy Council, Mr. Philip Edward Davis. They have all said that Grand Bahama, for 2 decades, plays the most integral part that there can be no economic recovery of the Bahamas without it. So we need to have the facilities such as the hospital. We didn't talk about the fire station, other infrastructure. These are conversations that we also need to have in conjunction with the Grand Bahama Port Authority if they are to continue to play a relevant role in this economic development. So I applaud that $150 million advanced clinic will give us more than we have. But when we look at the long-term growth of the country and of Grand Bahama as a whole, we need maybe $1 billion, $1.5 billion to be allocated. Again, these don't have to be government. These can be PPPs and the type of involvement that's necessary. But the PPP itself has to tie into the intellectual capital and intellectual property that could be developed by having a hospital as part of a medical jurisdiction and destination, so that as we develop intellectual capital and properties, that too can become ownership of or part ownership in whatever's developed here, so that profits that we hear so often, but people come to the Bahamas and generate intellectual capital or property that we don't benefit from. Again, so this is a broad conversation because the medical industry now with technology is a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and being here in this unique jurisdiction for medical tourism or medical destination itself created an environment that can pay for the hospital itself. As to the, so you see where we need a real conversation. Not these year-by-year conversation. We need a broad conversation from a national development side point. Now, to the monies that he's going to allocate, this $10 million for catastrophic. Okay, it's an excellent start. I hope people don't confuse this with national health insurance or whatever it's called. These the $10 million is for tools that is necessary because it has been proven, and for the 2 years of not being able to get the help and health assistance needed, we had a drastic increase in people needing care.
Yeah.
And so we have more people that need dialysis, more people that needs treatment and access to equipment and MRI and all these different things. So I'm hoping that this $10 million is going to be allocated for a moonshot or leap shot of bringing our infrastructure, support infrastructure, such as dialysis, etc., into the 21st century, into a wider scope of what is needed. And that's what I'm hoping it's for, because clearly, if you say this is for catastrophic care, 3 heart attacks or whatever wipes that out. Okay? So I hope this is directed to that. And then we begin to look at utilizing our natural resources as a baseline. And I think, believe it or not, I think, Michelle, this is an excellent topic for a number of your Wednesday shows, because we have to transition, as the Prime Minister said, he said food security and food sovereignty into healthier Bahamas, or we could not generate enough money to support the type of medical catastrophe our eating habits and our behaviors are about to put on us. And so, so again, I think, it's incumbent upon the Minister of Health to have a separate conversation beyond his 1 or 2 hours in Parliament to basically give us the needed information on how we're going to reform our eating habits, our health habits, so people like you and I could be into it.
This is what I'm looking forward to hearing as well, because you're absolutely right. If we're not going to have a sensible conversation, and more than just a conversation, but move towards preventative health care, preventative action, forget about it. And administration after administration after administration, we are not hearing that. We're talking, we're going to build more hospitals, or like you say, fancy clinics. We're going to throw more money at this treatment, and that's necessary. I'm not knocking that. But there has to be equal emphasis placed on preventative.
Right.
Otherwise,
in fact, it should be more, because what happens is we're already starting at net zero. I mean, we are the fattest, I think, around, the highest consumption of alcohol, chicken, and whatever else. I tell people now is that when I go out to parties and stuff, I just tell them, give me your biggest plate, let me take it home so I can have 3 portions. And most people sit there and consume it all at once. I'm beginning to eat more healthy. I wish I knew before I start knocking on the door of 60. Like you say, youth is wasted on the youth. But
I know,
right? And so, but again, we have an opportunity to nip this at the bud, where we can create healthy eating habits beginning in our school, from our young. So if we start now, in 12 to 20 years, we could reverse this by creating healthy eating habits among our youth. And so this is why I'm simply saying we can't keep buying beds for whatever, we can't keep buying beds for whatever is necessary. What we have to do is let's prevent the need for these dialysis machines. Let's prevent the need
Exactly.
whatever type of care that we have.
Exactly. And quite frankly, it doesn't even have to take 10 to 12 years. It doesn't have to take that long. Not only do we need to look at preventing the need for it, but we also need to look at helping people who have found themselves there to get off of it, because that
Absolutely.
is possible. That is possible. But these are the types of things that I am really looking forward to the presentation by the Minister of Health to hear specifics, because to me that is something that really needs to be addressed.
Michelle, I think 2 administrations back, they had attempted something very similar as they were talking about the National Health Plan, where they had people who was trying to implement diet. They were overpaying people just to check up on them. I know people have made a pretty penny just calling people and asking them, did you exercise today? Did you eat right today? And no checkups. And a lot of those people they were calling died while eating continuing, because they said, oh, of course I exercise. Of course I did whatever. And so what I'm simply saying is these health programs and the Ministry of Health itself has to stand in the future, look back to where we are, and create habits of where we need to be. And this is where we talk about the same thing with social services and the prison and health. We keep like buying more buckets for the leaking roof as opposed to fixing the roof.
Yeah.
So we don't need bigger prisons. We need less crime where we have to send people to prison. We don't need a more vigorous social safety net. If we build it in as part of our living, of the way we live, and empower people. And it's the same thing with health. And we just have to change what it is we do. Because other than that, every year we can keep looking to the budget and start clapping. Now that we have another $200 million to accommodate all you fat people, all you people who have just totally destroy your liver and your kidneys and everything else, we can now make you comfortable until death. How about make you comfortable in life by preventing it?
It's like you are on a boat that has holes, and somebody is on the boat scooping out the water to pour back into the sea. But as fast as they scoop out the water to pour it back into the sea, somebody else scoops up some out of the sea and pours it back into the boat.
No, how about you have a whole boat ship of people drilling hole in it by virtue of what they eat?
Add that to it as well. It makes no sense.
Yes.
And eventually the boat gonna sink. Bottom line. So right now
that's where we are heading to. The boat we're sinking is talking about the fiscal financial requirements. And when our financial requirements get greater than our ability to produce, we will sink.
Now, Bertha has another concern based on that last report. And Bertha says, now that funding for the Defense Force for more vessels, I question that one, because the Christie government purchased 9 and we don't know what happened to them.
Yeah, they ran up on the reef, they ran up on the ground because they went and bought these big shiny things, not realizing that the word Bahama
meant shallow waters.
Shallow waters. Okay? So now you got this deep ship and you keep saying, why do they keep running up? You're in shallow waters. And so again, the people we're trying to catch, they know we're in shallow waters. And so they stay in the shallow waters. So I am one to believe, and I've been advocating for this, we are in need of a Royal Bahamas Police Force, a Royal Bahamas Defense Force, but we also now need a Royal Bahamas Marine Force, Marine Patrol, because we are now having assets that we need to protect, such as the ocean economy, our 200-mile exclusive economic zone, with ships passing through, and now we're trying to become part of the green, blue, orange, aquamarine economy, people dumping bilge and this and all those different gray water into our waters. And so again, a wider, broader view is that we must grow into it. What happens now too is if we actually begin to look at the new technologies, instead of buying more boats or buckets, we can actually create segments in the Bahamas, maybe 5-6 districts, and each one will have the necessary tools and the responsibility to patrol this, like say the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, which is more supposed to be about defending our borders than it is to do what they're doing. So we have a Marine Patrol, a Royal Bahamas Police Force, and a Royal Bahamas Defense Force. The Defense Force and Marine and the Police Force can augment the Marine Patrol or whatever by whatever name that we use. And we can begin to protect these multi-trillion-dollar assets over generations. That can happen. And so, again, we're buying more boats, but it most likely will not solve the problem. We have autonomous drones. Guess what? Instead of buying boats that people have to get onto and stay on and maintain, we can buy, and this has been proven, the monies we spent on those last boats, we could have gotten autonomous drones, boats. They call drones are just unmanned vehicles that could have stayed out to seas for 30 to 40 days at a time and continuously patrol our borders back and forth. And so we have to begin to understand the power of technology. You could have autonomous boats, unmanned vehicles, actually with drones that take off from that vehicle, goes and look and scout, and comes back and park on that vehicle.
Yeah.
Even leaving from the islands. And so what we now is we need to stop. We are reaching 50 years. Stop pretending to be a developing nation and actually embrace the tools of development.
That's an excellent idea. I have a comment from Miko who says, question, as an island nation, why are we not the innovators in sea crafts?
Ocean technology, the blue economy. Hopefully, Mr. Davis has embraced the concept of the aquamarine economy, which is technically, as Eden Mary has said it, it is the blue, the green, the orange, the digital, the knowledge, and conceptual economy. These are where we now must drive in this new $1 trillion economy. We are in the 8th or 9th largest economy already, called hospitality and tourism. We can't move up into those other economies because we're not going to move into the great manufacturing aspect. But we can become innovators in these sub-economies of this new global dispensation we are in of saving the planet. And so we can become innovators. The ocean economy is the strongest economy of all the economies that's now emerging. We have one of the best exclusive economic zones. We are geopolitically located. We can do so much. We can leapfrog. I think Mr. Davis is absolutely correct in saying that we can lead the world in this. And let me add to this. Government is not just Mr. Davis. It is also Mr. Michael Pintard.
Oh, we're going to talk with him on the other side of the break.
Okay,
we're going to give him his just dues to hear from him on the other side of the break. Right. Yeah, definitely. But we do have to take a break. So let's go to this commercial break. And then when we come back, we are going to hear from the leader of the opposition and his views on the budget presentation. And I have to tell you, he's not as excited over it as Alan is. So stay with us. We will be back after these words from our sponsors. You are watching GPS on Global 99.5 FM.
Get a jump start on your future by applying to the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute. Did you know that BTVI offers associate degrees in human resources management, software engineering, office administration, media technology, and more? We also offer many certificate courses in carpentry, barbering, electrical installation, and so much more. You can even earn international certification at the same time. Come, discover the possibilities. Discover BTVI.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rim fix and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Glasses love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here along with C. Alan Johnson. We're talking about the budget communication and the telephone numbers to call if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment. 3260271. 3260271, 3260271, or 3260272, 3260272, 3260272, and the WhatsApp line is 824-9952, 824-9952. Leader of the opposition, Michael Pintard, ain't impressed. He and his colleagues held a press conference yesterday, immediately following the presentation of the budget. And in essence, what he said was, boy, plenty candy.
Show me the money.
But show me the money. Where is money coming from to pay for all of these things? Here now is a report. I think this one is from Eyewitness News with the opposition's response.
He's labeling promises made in the Prime Minister's budget communication as candies. In fact, he wants the government to consider how they will sustain or pay for the promises made.
We know that we have a substantial problem with national insurance. Multiple actuarial studies have indicated that we are at risk of the national insurance funds being depleted if concrete actions are not taken. This matter was not addressed by the government in the budget. We also know that there is a significant problem at BPL where it is having difficulty meeting its ongoing commitments, which have implications with respect to potential blackouts during the summer, increased cost of electricity for consumers, inability of BPL to meet capital works which is required.
The opposition leader also responds to the Prime Minister's announcement to allocate 10% of overall revenue collected in the Family Islands from property tax and road traffic fees to create a Family Island Development Trust Fund in the amount of $200 million. Mr. Pintard says this is a case where the devil is in the details.
So in other words, are they seeking to circumvent the procurement law, which, of course, as you would be aware, funds collected on behalf of government are expected to go into the consolidated fund. And it is possible to create a separate fund if you outline what the rules are in terms of governing those funds. The budget in many places, including this important place, did not address the issue of what rules will govern the collection and then deposit of those funds in a special fund in order to be used on those islands.
The Free National Movement leader added that the government also missed the opportunity to discuss taxation in a broad way to broadcast to the public a serious conversation about what we face regarding financial demands. He asks, what will the tax policy be under the Davis administration?
Unfortunately, the government sidestepped the issue of what their new tax policy is going to be. They indicated that they had no intention to raise taxes, but all of us would have heard the various fees that they indicated they intend to introduce. Now, in most quarters, persons interpret additional fees as a form of taxation.
Now, the Way Forward Budget 2022, as it's been dubbed, reduces the duty on food items used mostly in the restaurant and tourism sector. To that, Mr. Pintard says, based on all of the meetings Prime Minister Davis and Economic Affairs Minister Michael Halkitis held with various stakeholders, the opposition expected the Prime Minister to outline what's been achieved and what resources they would be committing.
For those of us that are familiar with the excise tax regime and familiar with duty know that much of the duties were already low or missing on many of the important items. He did not speak to any successes yield in discussions about lowering container prices, or he did not reference the discussions with the wholesalers and whether or not that can pay any dividends. We believe we know the answer already. So with respect to inflation, what is the plan? The government has been short in this budget in outlining a plan relative to inflation.
All right, C. Allen, what are your thoughts on
that? Speaker of the House, I would like to adopt all of what has been said as my personal statements. Now, let me explain that, right? There's no conflict in what I believe. Because I read and I listen with my mind as opposed to my eyes and my ears that you should not depend wholly upon, I see possibilities. The question we must then discuss, probabilities, not possibilities. There is the details gives us the probabilities of these things happening. The Prime Minister gave an excellent, I say the best that I've heard in 20 years, of the possibilities. Mr. Pintard is saying, provide me the evidence of the probabilities that will make these things happen. What is the policies? Because yes, some things that are stated can become policies, but we need to see the structure for implementation. It's essentially what I've called for as we were having this conversation. The devil is in the details. And so when you speak about, I think the most important things that he said in there is two things. NIB. If NIB is not resolved, and that's a separate conversation, and I think that NIB can be resolved by virtue of our natural resources and the access we have to it, as opposed to in combination with reform of the taxation regime. But there has to be a conversation because tens of thousands of people have paid into this fund that in less than a decade will cease to exist. And the longer we take to address NIB, the closer we come to a catastrophic failure of it. Because like you say, you ignore the leak in the roof, and where you just needed some shingle, you now got to replace the board and the lining and all these other different things. That's where we are right now. And we've ignored this leak for at least a decade. This is not the first time this has been brought up. However, we are now past the little minor drips. We are now into the pouring. So he's absolutely correct that has been omitted from the conversation. I support him in that conversation. Now, the other elephant in the room is what he said, BPL and by extension, Amera. Again, BPL is a vehicle in critical condition. We don't know if it's going to make it. In the absence of BPL being able to make it, we need a plan B and a plan C. We've touched on renewable energy, but what is their strategy? Because remember I said earlier, the debt of BPL belongs to all of us. And so the legacy debt, and I've said this on many shows, and I'm still waiting for total audit of BPL. It's about $2 billion, not these hundreds of millions of dollars they're talking about. We're talking about legacy debt and failure of preparation for the new reality we're in. But people do have to understand is every time a new cell phone comes onto the market, that's an additional strain on BPL. Technology is 90% energy consumption. And as we begin to talk about all these new digital innovations and things we have, we are now moving towards BPL. We cannot continue to be competitive with above 40% cost of energy. And we say, oh, but it's not 40. It is 40%. When you add the fuel charge, I look at my total charge, not, oh, you separate the two. So my fuel charge is separate than my generation charge. No, I look at my total bill. We are non-competitive in this region with what we have. We must go from above 40 cents to below 10 cents a kilowatt hour total to even enter the ring. We must hit sub 6 cents to actually be competitive. So as much as the Mr. Philip Brave Davis speeches was eloquent, if I go build a 50, if my church was to build a 50-room motel, it all goes to Amera or BPL because they make themselves a partner in my business by virtue of what they charge me for energy costs. And so, again, businesses can't survive with the increasing unreliability. You know, BPL, I don't know who did this worse in the last 5 years, BPL or COVID.
Wow.
You know, because the damage that BPL does with its brownings and its peaks and lows and all these different things, its outages, the lack of productivity that we have, it is damaging to us. We are now talking about this new green economy. BPL is one of the major contributors to the carbon environment that we are begging the world to stop doing themselves because it's killing us.
Yeah, that's deep.
Okay? And so the conversation about BPL should be front and center because everything Mr. Davis said is dependent upon BPL or Amera on Grand Bahama. And so again, Mr. Pintard, that's his